Hello friends, let us begin with the polar plot. So let us get introduced to a new topic, that is a polar plot. So let us understand why do we require a polar plot and exactly what we do inside the polar plot. To understand that, let us recollect the system, and to be very specific, let us consider some LTI system. So LTI system, let us assume having an input that is sine omega t, assuming the output accordingly. So instead of assuming, we know that for sinusoidal input, the speciality of LTI system, the output is also sinusoidal with the same frequency. What changes? Only two things. First, the magnitude, and second, the phase. So if you remember, what we get at the output is m sine of omega t plus phi. So now we are concerned to calculate this magnitude as well as phase. So where do we get and how do we get this magnitude and phase? For that purpose, what should be known to you is a transfer function of LTI system. So let us assume that transfer function is g of s. And I'm sure you remember that we substitute s equal to j omega, considering the sigma part to be equal to 0 in order to know the frequency domain analysis. So what do we get is actually g of j omega. So suppose if I want a magnitude, how do we calculate magnitude? Very easy. Magnitude is simply the magnitude of this transfer function itself at the operating frequency. For example, if the operating frequency of input is, let's say, omega 1, then at output also we get the same omega 1. So we calculate magnitude of the transfer function g of j omega at omega equal to omega 1. Or else if I want a phase, then we calculate angle of j omega at again omega equal to omega 1. So basically, we take the help of the transfer function g of omega. So let us consider what is meant by polar plot. For example, I want the variation of g of j omega. Listen to me very carefully. I want the variation of g of j omega, obviously with respect to frequency. Then I can actually think for something called as a polar plot. So if I want a variation of transfer function itself, because you know what, we are actually going to check this magnitude at a particular frequency which is omega 1, or a phase, let's say at omega equal to omega 1. But now if I really want to see the behavior of system when, let's say, omega is changed from 0 to infinity, then I'm going to take the help of polar plot. So basically, what is meant by polar plot? Polar plot means in general, let's say we have a loop gain, that is gh, or we say g of s into h of s. So for example, we have a loop gain. This loop gain is nothing but g of s into h of s. Let us assume s equal to j omega, so it becomes g of j omega into h of j omega. So what is meant by polar plot? I'll tell you. Polar plot means now I'm going to check the function, that is g of j omega and h of j omega, how it is changing with respect to omega when the omega is varied over 0 to infinity. So you may ask, sir, what is the use of that? What is the use of that? Once you understand how your loop gain is behaving when the omega is changed from 0 to infinity, then you actually can calculate 1 plus gh equal to 0 effect. So once you know how is the behavior of g of s into h of s, it is easy to know the behavior for this equation. And let me tell you, this is not a normal equation. This is something called as a characteristic equation. So once we understand how the characteristic equation is also changing with respect to the frequency change, then I can understand how even the stability of the system is getting affected, because you know the fact that 1 plus gh equal to 0 is responsible to give you the location of poles. So I repeat what I said. let us say we have a loop gain g of s h of s. I want to see how this g of s h of s is changing with respect to omega when the omega is varied over 0 to infinity. Then I'll get the behavior of 1 plus gh equal to 0 characteristic equation. And once I know the behavior of 1 plus gh equal to 0, that is characteristic equations behavior, I will also come to know how my stability of the overall system is getting affected when my omega is varied from 0 to infinity. So basically, what you require for polar plot, you just require GH, that is loop gain. So now let me give you the formal definition for polar plot. So what is meant by polar plot? Polar plot means it's a motion. It's a motion of open loop gain, that is GH, as the frequency omega is varied over 0 to infinity in something called as GH plane. Now what I said, let me write it and I'll explain you the same line again. So as you are aware that when I say GH, it means it is not actually GH, it is G of S into H of S, and ultimately S is equal to what? J omega. So can't I say that this GH is a function of omega? If this omega changes, obviously GH is also going to change. So what I'm actually going to do, let us say that I'm varying my omega, that is operating frequency, from 0 to infinity. Accordingly, GH is going to change. The moment GH changes, I will every time get a new point. So those points I'm going to plot together and I'm actually going to see the motion of that GH with respect to omega in something called as a GH plane. Now, let me be very clear. I'm not going to talk about S plane. I'm going to talk about GH plane over here. Please pay attention. It looks like a same, that is S plane. That is nothing but a 4-quadrant system. Look at this. As I said, it is a 4-quadrant system. You know that GH is basically a complex quantity. So when I'm saying a complex quantity, it will have a real part as well as imaginary part. So what we have over here is a real part of GH, and what we have on y-axis is obviously the imaginary part of GH. So this is basically called as a GH plane. So imagine if the operating frequency omega, let's say it is varied over 0 to infinity, my GH is going to change because I know the fact that GH is a function of omega. And if I just keep on plotting those GH with respect to omega, I'll get a particular graph. In fact, I can see a motion, how GH is moving inside the GH plane when the omega is varied from 0 to infinity. And basically that is what we call as a polar plot. I'm sure now you have understood what is the definition of polar plot. So here I need to explain you some basics. That is nothing but what we have ultimately over here is origin. On positive real axis, we consider this angle as 0 degree. If we are moving anti-clockwise, please listen to me very carefully. If I'm moving anti-clockwise, the angle that we take is always positive in nature. And whenever from this positive real axis I'm moving clockwise, we take angle to be negative. So let us first of all consider positive angles only. So what do I do is, suppose from the 0, I move anti-clockwise by 90 degree, what I will get is a positive 90 degree because we are moving anti-clockwise. Then again from 90 degree, if I move the another anti-clockwise direction by 90 degree, I will reach to this axis and I'll call this as positive 180 degree. And again, if I just continue moving anti-clockwise by another 90 degree, obviously what I will get over here is positive 270 degree. And from this 270 degree, if I'm moving further anti-clockwise by 90 direction, then definitely this is considered as a 360 degree. So this is what, when we keep on moving by anti-clockwise, we always consider positive angles. Obviously when we are moving clockwise with reference to a particular axis, then we get a negative angle. So let me show you even negative angles also. So again, considering 0 degree as a reference, let's say instead of moving anti-clockwise, let's say if I'm moving clockwise by 90 degree, then I will reach to the axis where 270 degree is written, is alternatively known as minus 90 degree axis. And suppose from minus 90 degree axis, if I move another clockwise 90 degree, then I'll reach to 180 degree axis, which can be considered as minus 180 degree also. So minus 180 degree and 180 degree is the same thing. And from minus 180 degree, if I move another clockwise direction by 90 degree, then I'll reach to a 90 degree, that is positive 90 degree axis, which is alternatively known as minus 270 degree. And obviously from minus 270 degree, if I move another clockwise direction by 90 degree, then I'll reach to a 0 degree, which can also be known as minus 360 degree. I hope now you have understood what I really mean to say. So what we have understood is the definition of polar plot, that is motion of GH, that is open loop gain, as the frequency omega is varied over 0 to infinity. So here I have actually tried to make you understand, or to make you introduced to something called as GH plane. We have seen the GH plane is nothing but a 4-quadrant system, where on the x-axis we take real part of GH, on y-axis we take imaginary part of GH. Then angle wise also we have got enough introduced to GH plane. Moving anti-clockwise gives you positive angle, moving clockwise gives you negative angles. So this angle concept is very, very important, because ultimately what we really plot in the polar plot is magnitude and phase of GH together. So the concept of these angles is very, very important. If you really miss these concepts, then you won't able to really plot this polar plot stuff. So before we really start with some polar plot problem, what I believe that you should be very clear about the polar quantities. So let us see what is meant by polar form first. First of all, understand, when I'm having A plus JB form, this is a vector quantity, but it is present in a rectangular form. When I say rectangular form, means it is a complex form which consists of the real part and imaginary part. Here real part is A, imaginary part is B. So this is called as a rectangular form. From the rectangular form, it is required in polar form that you must convert it into the respective polar form. So my aim is to convert rectangular form to polar form. So try to understand what is the exact pattern of polar form is this, that is M at an angle of phase. So to express A plus JB in M phase form, that is M at an angle of phase form, then we require to calculate M as well as phi. How do we calculate M? Very simple. M is nothing but, actually it is magnitude of A plus JB, which is nothing but under root of real part square plus imaginary part square. So it is A square plus B square. And whenever we calculate phase, it is nothing but an angle of A plus JB, which is generally given as tan inverse of imaginary upon real, which is nothing but B by A. I hope you are clear with this. Next, so this is the first part I wanted to tell you. Second part, for example, if the value given is A, which is considered as, let's say, rectangular form, and again I have to convert it into same form, that is M at an angle of phase form, then what needs to be done? Very simple. Then the magnitude is nothing but mod of A. But you know that to take the magnitude, we should have the real part and imaginary part. Since imaginary part is not given, I can consider this A number as A plus J0, which is nothing but under root of real part square plus imaginary part square. Ultimately what do we get is A. So what you should ultimately remember, whenever there is only constant A, its magnitude is A itself. I repeat, whenever there is a constant A, and let's say if you want to take a magnitude of it, it is A itself. So you don't have to really follow this procedure. You don't have to express A as A plus J0. It is going to save your time if you know these basics. Fine. Next, if I want to calculate phi, then it is tan inverse of imaginary part upon real part. But what is imaginary part? 0. What is real part? A. 0 by A. So it is simply tan inverse of 0. So it is always 0 degree. Moral of the story, whenever you have a constant term, in fact a real constant term, its magnitude is the real value itself, but the phase contribution by real quantity is always 0 degree. Please remember that the phase contribution by the real constant is always 0 degree. So this is when the real constant is given. Let us see what happens when they give you the imaginary constant. So third part that we are going to see, what happens when they give the imaginary constant. Let us assume it is JB. Let us assume that you have to convert it into M phase form. So you have to calculate magnitude and the phase. So I can write JB as 0 plus JB. And from this, if I want to take the magnitude, it is under root of 0 square plus B square, which is nothing but B itself. So whenever you have a purely imaginary constant, this is called as imaginary constant, then the magnitude is nothing but that imaginary value. So just remove J, and whatever remains, that is considered as the magnitude. You can remember like this instead of following this step. In case if you forget this, then you have these steps to be followed, which is not even going to take half of your minute. Okay. Or if I want to, let's say, calculate angle phi, then it is, you know that it is tan inverse of imaginary part upon real part. Imaginary part is B, real part is 0. B by 0, anything divided by 0 is infinity. So it gives you tan inverse of infinity, and tan inverse of infinity is always 90 degree, or you can say pi by 2 radian. Most of the time we take angles in degrees, so you can remember tan inverse of infinity to be 90 degree. I hope you understood this. Next, suppose we have JB to the power n. It is JB to the power n, and let us say I have to get its M phase form. Then please remember, this JB to the power n, this JB to the power n can be written as 0 plus JB to the power n. In that case, the magnitude is given as under root of, okay, so you just forget about n. Consider this number as 0 plus JB. So what we do generally, it is real part square plus imaginary part square, and then just put this degree n. I hope you understood how to calculate the magnitude. Okay, so this is nothing but the magnitude value. This is nothing but the magnitude value. Obviously, this b square and under root will cancel each other. So the final magnitude will become what? It will become b to the power n. It will become b to the power n. And that's what I said. Whenever there is a complex constant or imaginary constant, just remove j, and whatever remaining is itself the magnitude. So over here also, you can say the magnitude is directly b to the power n. I hope you understood this. And next, if I want to now calculate the phase angle, then it is actually angle of 0 plus JB to the power n. This is given as, whenever you have such quantity, then take this n first and then multiply the angle of JB. So tell me, what is angle of JB? You know that whenever there is imaginary constant, the phase contribution is always 90 degree, yes or no? So this is simply n times 90 degree. This is n times 90 degree. I'm sure you understood this. In case, suppose we have this kind of pattern, 1 upon JB to the power n. Then remember, suppose, let's say, if I want to again express this into M phase form, then how do we do that? Very simple. Whenever you want to take the magnitude, what you need to do? So magnitude, let me write 1 upon JB to the power n. Whenever you take the magnitude, take magnitude of numerator and denominator. So you know that magnitude of the real quantity is a real quantity itself. So one magnitude is 1 only. And whenever you take the magnitude of the complex constant, to be very precise, the imaginary constant, just remove j. What is remaining? B to the power n. This becomes the magnitude. This becomes the magnitude. And when you want to calculate the phase, whenever you want to calculate the phase, it is similar. See, likewise, during the magnitude, when it is in the form of ratio, you took the magnitude of numerator and magnitude of denominator. So when now you are going to calculate the angle, it is a similar way. You have to take angle of 1 divided by angle of JB to the power n. That is, you are taking angle of numerator as well as angle of denominator. Please remember, whenever you have an angle relationship in division, then it is always angle of numerator minus angle of denominator, which is nothing but JB to the power n. Please never ever forget this. Okay. Then You know that angle contribution for a real constant, that is nothing but 1 over here, will be 0 degree minus, this is something we have already studied. You know that this n first of all comes here and it is angle of JB, and you know that angle of JB is nothing but 90 degree. So effectively I can write minus n into 90 degree. So by practice, looking at this number only, you will automatically write minus n times 90 degree. You did not to really follow those many steps. So what I'll do is I'll just take certain cases where I have to really calculate magnitude and phase, and once you become really comfortable with the same, then it is even easy for me to make you understand in very simple steps. So I don't have to go in detail every time when I'll be solving so many problems together. So let me go for the sixth one. Suppose if I want to have this to get converted into magnitude phase form, then as I said that for magnitude what you do, you simply take magnitude of numerator and denominator. So it is magnitude of 1 plus 2j, it is magnitude of 1 plus 5j, then it is magnitude of 6j. Then the magnitude is given as, you know that magnitude of a plus jb is under root of a square plus b square, so it will be under root of 1 square plus 2 square divided by under root of real part square plus imaginary part square, so it is 1 square plus 5 square. And then you know that the magnitude of the purely imaginary number is just imaginary number, which is nothing but 6. So again, my intention is not to solve this, but then you understood how to calculate the magnitude. That is my whole aim to tell you. And finally, let's say if I want to calculate the phase in a similar grounds, we will do. So phase will be, it is phase angle of numerator as well as phase angle of denominator also. Further, I can write. So you know that when the angles are divided, they get subtracted, but when angles are multiplied, their respective angle gets added. So for example, in the denominator, as you can see, multiplication of these two angles, so the resultant angle will get added, and you know the relation between numerator and denominator, it would be angle of numerator minus angle of denominator. So let me write it. It is angle of numerator minus, in the bracket we have angle of denominator. But when I have to calculate angle of denominator, can't you see there is a product sign? So whenever there is a product sign, the respective angle gets added. So what do we have over here is angle of 1 plus 5j plus angle of 6j. I hope you understand that. Now ultimately, when we have a plus jb form, and let's say if I want to have its phase angle, we know that it is tan inverse of imaginary part upon real part. So in this case, angle of 1 plus 2j will be tan inverse of imaginary part upon real part. Imaginary is 2, real is 1. So we did not to specify that one. I can write tan inverse of 2 minus. Then in the bracket we have 1 plus 5j angle. So it will be simply what? Tan inverse of imaginary upon real, which is tan inverse of 5. Then we also know that angle of purely imaginary number, okay, angle of purely imaginary number, what it is? It is simple, it is nothing but 90 degree. And then by taking this negative sign inside, and you know, by using the calculator, you can calculate the final angle in degree. I'm now sure you have understood how to calculate magnitude and phase for a given problem, because this is very very important. Until and unless you are not comfortable with the polar value calculations, it is really not possible for you to solve a single problem based on the polar plot. So make your basics strong, and then stay tuned. Watch the next video where I'm going to start with direct problems of polar plot. Thank you.